Hey. Hey Jarvis. How was my weekend? I had a fun weekend. I watched the Super Bowl. Eagles vs. Chiefs. I was rooting for Eagles, so I was very pleased. Had brunch on Saturday. How about you? How was your weekend? So what I'm gonna do, I actually have a repo for this. We're gonna clone this repo. I actually think that I start skipping this off. I don't know. We'll skip it, just see if I dislike it again. So let's add the file. Add folder to workspace. All of coding. What's all of programming? Well, I'm gonna have to check out both. CD all of programming. CD got that. CD all of coding. Okay, that's fine. So we're gonna go add file, add folder to workspace. We're gonna delete this one and just choose all of coding. And we're just gonna add new files here. Okay, so we'll make a new folder called SQL, and we'll just put everything we learned for SQL in here. New folder, Python. I'll put everything for Python in there. New file core.sql. New file readme.md. New file core.py. Hey Zuha, hey Anvi. Are you answering questions related to technical interview prep? Sure. Yeah, definitely. If you have questions about how to prepare for technical interview, if you have technical interview questions, like a question that might be asked during a technical interview, and you can ask me them and see how I answer them. Because yeah, I should be practicing. So I'm actually going to use ChatGPT to help create like outlines and guide me a little bit. So I'm going to actually lock that to one side of the screen. Give me a moment. That's not what I wanted to do. So we'll go back to here, here. Okay, cool. All right. So maybe we'll just like do some core. You create outline for doing Python. My technical review later. Okay. So my idea with this repository was to teach different coding aspects using the native language features. And so in theory, you would be able to look at the file, see what the language can do, and you'd be able to run it. And you would see how it works right then and there. So for Python, do natives. So we're gonna say, do they actually have like a specific primitive for int? Okay, let me maybe stay in. I'll stay in ChatGPT land. Where's type of? That's what I would want to know. Hey Alex, how's it going? Happy Monday. Interesting. So there'd be int equals 10. Probably not a good idea to just call that integer. Float. Let's see, what other primitives do we have? Let's see if that's true. I do want to not name these consistently, but it's fine for now. It's capital T, right? In Python. So I'll put var true, var false. Very important distinction to keep in mind. There's apparently none, which is also capital. And then there's data structures, which is list. We got the tuple. And the list, difference between the lists, lists can be altered. Append slash remove. Call it add slash remove. And tuples are final. Cannot be changed. Can they actually not be changed though? Like you can't do. We can't do that. We do Python. That's not the word Python. Core. Yeah. So this would be an error. All right. There's set. Oh, we can't call it set like that. And we'll say at the top, variable names follow standard naming conventions of I'll do regex maybe. Regex being A through Z, A through C, 0 through 9, underscore, JK not 0 through 9. Actually, before we do that, you can't start with a number. Can you start with underscore in Python? Okay, he didn't complain, so. And then there's the dictionary. We put stuff in here, right? Well, it says we can't. Okay, we can't. It says it takes one argument. So it's an iterable. So we'd have to do what list? That's how we could do var list, maybe. Cool. Maybe get to know some of these functions are. There's add. Dot remove. Clear, interesting. Copy clones it. Return a new set with the elements of the set that are not in the others. Interesting. Pop is interesting. I don't even know why you would want pop. So, give functions for convenience. Good to know. Put some new lines to separate some of these. We'll probably put all the comments before our section. Okay. And then finally, there's the dictionary. It's not like this, is it? Oh, you can actually do it like that. But is it the same as, is it the same as that? Do they, like, pronounce the same thing, maybe? They look the same. So let's see what okay, so we should mention we can use the type function to determine types. So that looks like if type var integer is int, yes. Avoid using double equals. Do not use. Okay, there's also if is instance var integer and we give you a tuple. We say int float. Does it also not take a tuple? Is that possible? Does it have to be a tuple? What if you wanted to check to see if it was a tuple? Like if it was a tuple of a certain shape? So this is an option. This is something you should avoid. This is something that's recommended. Definitely use it for class inheritance. Recommended, especially for classical inheritance. And then for none, we should say none should use just is. So if var none is none, print yes. So we should print yes 4 times. Okay. Is there any difference between this and this? There's some differences between them. Dictionary literal faster than dictionary because of built-in syntax more commonly used for creating dictionaries. Cannot create an empty set. Cannot create an empty set. Creates an empty dictionary, not a set. Okay, that's fine. This is empty dictionary, empty set. Okay, I mean, I wouldn't have thought that. Dictionary constructor. That's not the worst. You just use named arguments, KW args. It's useful when creating dictionaries from key value pairs without quotes. And so you can also use an array of tuples. Interesting. The thing I would want to know is like what's faster? Is it faster to write or faster to run? Oh, it's slower because it's a function call. Okay, so it's faster to run. Syntax is more common, useful in certain cases. Only works with explicit keys. Can take iterables like lists of tuples. Creates an empty dictionary. Just need to create an empty set. Yeah, that's. Oh, that's what it's saying. I think it's because you can, an alternative to this is to say var alt set equals 10 false last. You can't create an empty set. This is an alternative way to create a set, but you can't create an empty set this way. That's what it's saying. Good to know. Okay. And then, what did I want to ask it? Oh, I already asked it. What's the difference? Okay. I think that answers those questions. Okay. How do I check the shape of a tuple? E.g., make sure it has specific types in specific cells. Let's see what ChatGPT recommends. Oh wow. Chaining length and types with this instance. Using all for generalized, where did they use all? Okay, here's all. Oh. Interesting. For I and T sub I. Expected. Alright, let's go. Wonder if there's a library that makes it easier. Okay. Alright. Alright, I think that's the primitives. So now we're doing control flow to the capital letter for primitives. And then down here, capital D, S. Alright, control flow. Control flow is if true, elif true, else. And they need to have a body. So I think there's a syntax for placeholders. I believe it's pass. Because you can't have like an empty body. So pass is like the way to have an empty body. Okay, so there's a few things to know about iteration. There's for true, pass. I'm gonna do I think you need the what are all of the variants array for loop. I wonder why enter doesn't work anymore. Okay, so we'll just take these. Just gotta wait till it stops generating. Is it ever done? How many? Oh my gosh, how many are there? You don't have to give me like all 20. Just a couple would have been fine. No. 14 is too many. I thought there'd be like 2 or 3. How about the most commons? This one's interesting. So it goes 0 to 10, traveling by 2. 1 to 5. It's fine. There's also this. This is pretty important. In case you need the index. This is kind of like a tuple. Zip is also interesting. I really feel like you shouldn't have to do something like this. Almost never have to do a zip. This one's for dictionaries. Dictionary iteration. The name. Okay, so key persons. Key and persons, default iteration is over keys. Cool. Iterates over key value pairs. So this is like basically calling enumerate. I'm gonna put this as a comment. Keys, values, and items. I different ways to iterate. Cool. Put this as a comment. I'll put these comments together. I'll put these comments together. I think set's pretty obvious. We probably don't need to do set. Sorted, we don't need. Reversed, we don't need to put it. List comprehension is interesting. I think that we should put list comprehension. So we can put this here. And basically what the list comprehension is, it's kind of, the shape of it is bracket, It's like the body or the expression for I'm trying to think of what I can. I'll put dollar. Just know not to confuse things here. For iterator in iterable. And I think you could do something similar for making a dictionary. And then loops can break. That can continue. Oh wow. For loop with else when no break occurs. Interesting. Print loop completed without a break. That's interesting. That's cool to know. Okay, so we might want to look at generators. Alright, iter tools is probably not interesting. Threading is probably not interesting. I don't think that they'll cover that in the interview. Very rarely do you ever want to do threading, especially in Python. Okay. So generators are these functions that can be iterated over. These are very rare. You barely have to know those. Okay, list comprehension, generator expressions. Cool, we did those. Okay, so to function scope. So I think functions, they have def fun pass. And so they have args by name, but then they have args and then KW args. We'll just do print A, B, C, args, KW args. And I think the way that kind of works is you would pass the value for A, pass the value for B, pass the value for C, and then we can just start passing value for args. And then if we said like a named arg, like other equals true, not me equals an empty dictionary. Let's just try running this. And so we see that the args ends up being, what is that? Let's just type. And the argument name doesn't actually matter here. All that matters is the stars, I believe. So args is a tuple. And KW args is a dictionary, which is interesting because that technically means you can alter KW args, but you can't alter args. Okay, so there's also like these different declaration types. So let's just ask about those. Python first. Okay. Go to the bottom, see what it says. Okay, so there's this concept of local. Non-local is used inside nested function to modify a variable inside closing. Okay. Inside a nested function to modify a variable in a closing non-global scope. Okay, so there's def inner. I think they say non-local. A, for example. Allows us to mutate A. And then there's var global equals true. And so what we have to say is global var global. And then we say var global equals false. And this allows access, allows us to mutate var global. And we'll say the for nested functions only. Alright. If we remove non-local, Python will treat access new local variable and unbounded local error will occur. Got it. So there's only two keywords. Local is just temporary. It's on the stack and then it's gone. They should be rare. They should be rare. Try to avoid it. Alright, cool. So I'm thinking that we probably get as far as 4. And even that we don't go all the way through 4 because I think that at least for reviewing, we just want to know like Python syntax. Because like knowing all the tools and libraries is a whole another beast. And for that I want to just focus on the tools and libraries that matter for the job, which will be Flask and SQL Alchemy. And so we'll learn those specifically. But yeah, let's review the earlier stuff. Okay, so we did this. Lambda functions, I think are pretty straightforward. Let's say lambda equals, how does this work? It's like something like, I might have to re-refresh on the syntax though. Show me a simple lambda example. Close. Okay, so that might have hurt us a little bit. it's anonymous. Which is just basically unnamed. No, that's okay. We'll back up. Okay, I think function and scope is reviewed for me. Okay, alright, so I feel like Python classes are fairly rare. I don't know why, I just get this impression that they're very rare. I guess I say that because I rarely use them in TypeScript. Or any typeless language would probably rarely use them, but let's look at Python SQL alchemy. Okay, so they do use classes. Okay, so it's probably good to review that just lightly. Oh, oops. Yeah, that was a big oops. So I remember class name, and then as it says right there, there's the init with the self, and then you can say like prop maybe. I don't know how you do it actually. And we do self.prop equals true. Probably have to put def, right? I'm not sure how that works. What if we do def do something? Self is like this magical this reference. Oh, it does know a prop. But can we do prop? Ooh, cool. It's okay with that. Instance versus class attributes. I don't know how to do class attributes off the top of my head. How do you do a class attribute in Python? So does that mean if I said that, can we do instance dot other? But can we also do what happens for all of these? I'm wondering. Okay, class name has no attribute prop. Okay, so this one's fine. This one's fine, this one's fine. So this is static. This is instance. It's also optional. You don't have to do it. Python will figure it out if you don't do it. Yeah, okay, this is what I wanted to see. Okay, cool. Go back to the outline. Okay, so we did class and instance creation, we did the init function, we did instance versus class attributes. Okay, so there's also like inheritance, which looks like class child. And then I think you put parentheses actually. And then we have to say pass. So this is inheritance. Okay, but how do you do method overriding? I don't think that there's like an official keyword for method overriding. You just do it. That's interesting. That's really important to know. Really important to know. So I will include it. Super is a function. Oh, you don't pass self in. That's good to know. Using super to call the parent. Super speak. This is important detail. Self is a function. Let's try to take some of this in. Overriding is just, you just do it. And we do super dot do something. Self. Simply override. No keywords necessary. Okay. Super to call the parent method if you override a method, but use super. Overriding init, overriding method, but keeping the parent's behavior. Yeah, I mean, it's basically the same thing as this one. Okay. All right, I think that I'm refreshed on that. Interesting. So there's encapsulation and access modifiers. So we could do a def. Okay, so if it's underscore private pass def. Sorry, this is private. I'm gonna write protected, but I'll amend it later. This is protected. This is private. Start with underscore to make it protected. And protected is, I guess, child access only. And then start with underscore to make it private. Self-access only. And so we shouldn't be able to do super dot private, right? And we should be able to do protected, right? Okay, well, Let's see what private versus protected is. By default, everything is public, meaning they can be accessed from anywhere. Protected assets, attributes, sorry. A protected attribute is a convention not enforced that suggests it should not be accessed directly but can be used in subclasses. It can be used in subclasses, but what if I did self dot protected? That's fine. But if I did super dot, oh, it is there. Okay, interesting. If I did super dot private, it's not there. Obviously, if I do self dot private, it is there. Interesting. Do we get an error? It's just convention, right? Yeah, it's just convention. So I'll say private and protected are just convention and are not enforced. Which triggers name mangling. Okay, so I guess just protected is not enforced. Okay. It is convention and not enforced. So it triggers name mangling. So I guess if we did instance dot, it is there. So we do get an error, but our IDE doesn't know any better. But we should be able to do here dot protected, self dot protected. We should be able to get away with that. And then we should be able to call self dot private here. I do want to do super dot private here just to see if I also get an error here. We don't. So it's not really enforced. Within the class at least. It is convention and not always enforced. Private and public protected are convention and not always enforced. Good to know. It's fine. Okay, polymorphism, method overloading. Actually, how does polymorphism is fine. I understand polymorphism, but method overloading sounds interesting. I would want to see an example of that. It seems like there's probably libraries that help you to do it. Overloading with default arguments. Yep. That's what I would have expected. But you could do it with any kind of function. You don't need to just do it for class functions. I don't know if you already covered this, but could you talk about namespaces? Give me a moment. I did not cover namespaces. Does Python have namespaces? Okay. I think you're talking about TypeScript, but just give me a moment. Let me see if. Built-in namespace, global namespace, and closing namespace. I'm assuming that you're referencing the game engine and how we had this types file with a bunch of namespaces here. So I'm imagining you're asking why should we use namespaces? So the idea, the main motivation was, there's a few ways you could have done this. You could have done multiple files. Let me just make a note. Just give me a moment. So the reason that we use a namespace is because we wanted to reuse type names and interface names without them clashing with each other. And so I had state, this was just called state in the survivor, but also breakout has state, and also superplex has state, and also it just keeps going, and we're just going to keep doing this. Solitaire has state, and Minesweeper has state. They all have this state interface. And so I use namespaces to help separate them from each other. Now you could argue that, Logan, why don't you just make more files and just have a Minesweeper types file and a Solitaire types file and this types file and that types file and the other types file. And you could certainly do that, but when you type state into your code and you haven't already imported it, it's going to be challenging to choose the correct state, because now all the states will not be in namespace. They'll be at the highest level. And so when you start typing STATE, it's going to show all 5, all 6, all 7, all 8, all 9. And as we keep creating new games, if we have 30 games, we would have 30 states to choose from. And to me, that seemed like it would be a little bit hard to manage. It'd be hard to organize. And so for me, it was better to namespace it so that we could use the same name, but we don't have to worry about the conflicts, the clashes between different files or within the same file even. I do like the idea of having all the types that we do in a single file. It just makes it easier to keep track of the different type declarations you have and allows you to reuse them much more easily, and it also helps to reduce circular importing errors, because you have like a type declared in one place and you use it in multiple places and multiple weird places, but all you need is the type. You don't need the functions, the variables, etc. And so having all your types in either one file or having like a dedicated folder for all your types, I think is ideal. Like I could make a types folder, still use namespace. I would still use namespace. Make a types folder, make a file for each namespace pretty much, and maybe have an index that basically just export everything in the folder. That way the individual files are much smaller and manageable, but I just haven't really done that yet. Maybe it's something that makes sense in the future, because yeah, maybe you shouldn't import all the types, but it doesn't really matter because when you compile it, types don't get compiled into the code. Not for TypeScript, because you end up with JavaScript, which does not support types. So namespaces just eliminates like referential issues that you might have. They're especially useful like because state. You also think about state. There's probably so many libraries that also use the variable state or the type state, and so you don't want to clash with the other libraries either. So like for our game engine, we haven't imported anything. See, our dependencies are just TypeScript and bun. These are just types, so we haven't used any dependencies. But if you started including like 100 dependencies, eventually you might start having that conflict of, oh, this library calls their type state as well. Now I have a conflict. And what if I want to use state from both of the libraries, for mine and from theirs? Well, now you gotta do like some renaming. So it kind of becomes a hindrance if you don't use a namespace. Other thing kind of nice about a namespace, you only need to do one import, and you have all the code that you need, all the types that you need. You see, I just need to import this breakout type, and suddenly I have every single type from our breakout namespace. I don't need to import state brick data. Well, this one's a little simpler, but I don't need to do 2 imports. I just need to do 1 import, and just do a dot reference everywhere, which, you know, that's preferable to me. I will say I don't always use namespaces, but like there are certain situations which they make sense, and I think library code is one of those situations. Library code is definitely calls for namespacing. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Sure, no problem. I really like your questions because it gives me the idea to like start making some shorts, some YouTube shorts, and some explainer videos. So I've been writing down your questions, so I'll be making videos in response to those. So it really helps me to know what kind of questions people have. So thank you for that. Let me just close a few things here. We don't need all this stuff. Okay, back to our core Python. We were looking at different scopes, namespacing. Okay, yeah. There's not really, it doesn't really seem like there's namespacing that you would want to interact with in Python. I think like Python supports namespaces. A namespace is a container. Types of namespaces, built-in namespace. The namespace container. The namespace contains all built-in objects. Lists of built-in. Wow, that's incredible. I would hardly call that a namespace though. I would hardly call any of this namespace. It's kind of more like scope. So it's kind of hallucinating here. Let me ask. So how do I create my own namespace? don't think there's a true concept of namespaces in Python, but we'll see. Yeah, so it's not really a namespace, it's more like a scope. You're still writing? I don't know why they're calling this a namespace. This seems like a hallucination to me. This is closer to a namespace, I would say. But what you're actually doing is just creating a global variable. So why not just create a global variable? You could just create a variable called my namespace, and you can reference that anywhere. You don't need to do this. Because Python is by default global. Once you import a file, anything that's declared in that file is also instantly declared and accessible from other files. So I would say that the answer should have been no. And let me just do a quick Google search. Okay, yeah, then this one specifically mentions scope. So again, like, it's, like, to me, namespace, yeah, it's scope, but it's not really, usually, like, you don't have to create an instance of a namespace. Like, it's more syntactical than programmatic. Like, a namespace should be syntactical. The way the Python does it is more programmatic, like, something actually is happening in memory in order to make a namespace possible. Whereas in like TypeScript, it's just a matter of syntax, and you're dot referencing syntax. And when the code actually runs and compiles, you're just referencing something that you didn't make, but the language created for you. So I think this is a kind of a hallucination. There's only really namespaces in TypeScript, not in JavaScript. So similarly, okay, so there's magic functions, yeah. All right, give me a list of the 10 most common magic function overrides. Dunder. Good. Dunder is double underscore, because there's 2 double underscores. Dunder is short for that. I remember that, at the very least. Init, of course. str, which is the stringification. So I'll do magic / dunder functions. There's str. Representation, I guess. Okay, so it's like a JSON. No, it's not like a JSON. It's more like a self-invoking function. Returns a formal string representation of the object used by and the interactor shell. The goal is to return a string that could recreate the object. Return a string that looks like the code to recreate the object. I think that's a better summary. Because saying that it return a string that could recreate an object, it's more like, to be more specific, it returns a string that contains code that looks like it could recreate the object, because I could argue that like you should probably show JSON there, but I guess it doesn't truly recreate the object because that's not a function call. Dunderhead. Indeed. Okay, so there's add, which is interesting. I think it's self-explaining. There's equal. There's length, sure. Which it interacts with len. Yeah. Interacts with len. Okay, so at this point we're kind of getting into unlikely territory. This is like a map access error. Allows the indexing operator. I wonder if it allows. Okay, so it allows numbers. I imagine it allows strings too. Oh, we need another double. Okay, del, interesting. Which I guess interacts with the del keyword. Interacts with del. Oh wow, so this is basically like proxy. Call. Self. Args. Start from first. So you can call this as a function, which is weird. A little weird. I don't know how that's the 10th. Okay, I think 10's good for now. I hope 10's good for now. I mean, we probably won't end up using any of these, but it's good to have it all. Alright, let's see where we are. Alright, we might be at data structures. We don't need to do time, space, complexity. Okay, so we don't, this isn't really Python specific. Not all of these, like append, pop, sort, sure, these are Python. Get, keys, that's Python. Heap queue is maybe a little interesting. Priority queue, it's not really Python specific. Stacks and queues, there's a library for it, cool. It's fine. The advanced ones, we're gonna skip this. This is kind of like, we're outside the scope of syntax, and this is just like data structure, algorithms. This is just like stuff that you can take from language to language, you already know it. So we'll go to the advanced And for the advanced, we don't really need to do much, I would say. I don't think we're gonna want to go deeper into a lot of these. Regex, I already know. Math, datetime, these are pretty standard things. File handling might be important. Error exceptions. Let's start making notes of what we might want to do. We want to do error handling. We want to do decorators. I want to see what a closure is, at least in Python. I know what a closure is in JavaScript. We already did generators, iterators. We're not going to do multi-threading, multiprocessing. We're not going to do async await. There's no need to do any built-ins. We could do some file stuff. Database will do SQL alchemy later. I guess we could do requests. I guess we could do testing and debugging. Because I actually don't know how to debug in Python. I think it'd be something interesting to learn. System design best practice, writing clean and Pythonic code, PEP 8, design pattern, singleton factory observer, memory management and performance optimization. Okay, well, I mean, to me, these are the only things left that are probably important. I think decorators, we could just like, just do this. I just say fun decorator. Not fun. Python's not fun. There. So, we should probably say this is a comment. Python only supports inline comments, right? They didn't mention anything about comments. It's kind of nuts that this would not talk about comments at all. Like Python basics, any coding basics, they should at least say something about commenting. So I feel like it's kind of a failure of ChatGPT here. So decorators, take the decorated entity and returns a new one. What can be decorated in Python? How are we at? 11. Okay, so functions, methods, sure. Class methods, of course. Static methods, absolutely. Properties. You can decorate getter, setter, and deleter methods. To control how an attribute is accessed, set, or deleted. At property setter. Oh, interesting. So is app property just supported? Some magic up in here. helper decorators. Leader. Setter. And then it figures out what to do with those. That's really cool. I wonder how that works. It would need to like somehow overload the class. So that's some magic up in here. You could decorate classes, you could decorate functions. You could decorate decorators. No thanks. It's interesting. Decorate functions and classes. You really can't decorate this? What happens? I just want to know. Okay. Syntax error. Got it. That makes sense. I'm a little surprised how long it took for it to determine that it was a syntax error. Anyway, we can scroll back down. What is a Python closure? You can also use triple quotes for comments. Oh, interesting. Oh, you mean like for a multi-line comment? Interesting. All right, let's look at a closure, and then I'll look into. Maybe I'm not doing it right. Remembers the environment in which it was created. This means the function can access variables it was containing. Okay, fine. It's not really much different from scope. So I don't know why it's done section. Different commenting patterns in Python. Oh, perfect. Okay, so here's the triple quotes that you've mentioned. What doc strings for multi-line comments, primarily used for documenting functions. This is a doc string for commenting, for explaining function. Do they get compiled out at runtime, I guess? Like, is it actually a comment or is it a string? Like a really, like, can you, okay, I guess to put that to the test, can you do so it is just a string. It's kind of clever because like people, the Python developers or the programmers of Python, people who are programming in Python were like, well, we have no way to multi-line comment. Let's just use multi-line string, and that works. But I think like the downside is that this gets evaluated as a string. and then you do nothing with the string. And so I don't know if there's like a memory hit, like when you first load up your program, when you first start your program. And can you just do this, like, you would do it right before a function, but can you do it like here? That's interesting. Oh wait, is it interesting? What is this? Doesn't apply to a function object. Oh, I should return CLS. Hmm. 180, 221. Type error descriptor setter for property doesn't apply a function apply to a function object. What? Is that not what they did here? Oh my gosh, it stopped value? Okay. Alright, and then I'll move this. It's not really a comment. But I will put it here. Line string which can be stored or used stored. I took a Python summer class once. I remember they said you could use triple quotes or multi-line comments, but I don't remember much else about it. I mean, you could. I will say you can use it to comment your code. Yes, that I will say that is a correct statement. You can use it to comment your code, but it's still a string. That's the only pushback I'm giving. It's not a true comment, because to me a true comment would be that essentially what the interpreter would do is it would take this. I'm just like envisioning how the Python interpreter works, and the Python interpreter likely looks at this and it's just like, all right, ignore the whole line, go to the next line. But when it gets to this line, maybe it's like, oh, it's a quote. Okay, so maybe it's some kind of string. Okay, oh, it's a triple quote. Okay, so it's a multi-string. So I'm gonna find the next triple quote. I'm gonna process all of this. I'm gonna put this into a string data structure. Then I'm gonna hit this triple quote. And now after all of that, I'm gonna throw away all that work. And then I'm gonna continue. Whereas for this, it's just like, oh, that's a Omnithorpe. Oh, what is it called? I don't want to keep calling it the wrong thing. I'm gonna Google it off. What is this hashtag alternate name? Octothorpe. It's like, oh, Octothorpe. Okay, I could just go to the next line, read until next line character. But for this, it's like, okay, I see a single quote. Now I need to do extra processing. Is this a single line string or a multi-line string? Oh, there's another single quote. Cool. So that leads me on the road. If there's not another single quote, then it's probably an empty string, or there's a bug. Oh, there's a third quote. Okay, so it's probably a multi-line string. And so now I can process this as a multi-line string. Take all of these, put that into a character, and then find the next set of triple quotes. Great. Now I've created this string of characters with letters in it. Now what? There's nothing else on this line, so I just throw away that data and I continue. So like to me, like the comment is just so much faster to process. Especially a single line comment. And so like it's actually to me almost better to just do the hashtag, the octothorpe on every single line. But I don't know. Maybe the compiler is optimized to know when, oh, this isn't going to be stored because there's no variable here. It's not going to be stored, so I'm just gonna skip it. I won't create the character string. There is still a little bit of extra processing. Well, this could be the start of the string. Oh, well, this could be the end of the string. Well, no, now I know that it's a triple quote. So it's either a syntax error or it's a triple quote for a string. So yeah, just a little bit more processing power, I would say. For the gain being you can write a few more lines of code without having to write an extra character. You think about, like, I only wrote 3 lines here, but I wrote 6 characters just to do those 3 lines. Whereas I probably could have gotten away with just using 3 extra characters, really. And so we actually use twice as many characters to do the same thing. Anyway, I digress. How to efficiently debug codes for test equipment if the first measurement data does not meet the expectation? That is a good question. For test equipment, if you're talking like hardware, I'm not well versed in hardware. I would probably need a little bit more specifics, but if it's software, I could be more helpful, but again, I would need specifics. I mean, to me, debugging, I would imagine, especially with hardware, is just making little changes here and there to see what you can learn about the setup, the situation. Trying to figure out, what does this setting do? What does that setting do? What is moving this here? You know, you got to play around with it and really understand it, really explore all the different configurations and why doing one thing might do one thing while doing another thing might do something else. And so you just got to ask, like really, really good questions in order to, and you should have like theories. I think it would be really helpful to be like, if I do this, then this should happen. And if you doing that and then the thing happens, great. You have a solid understanding, you have a solid theory. If what you say doesn't happen, then maybe you need to reevaluate your understanding of the setup. And so, yeah, it's basically just like almost like scientific theory. Hypothesis, test, see the conclusion. See if the conclusion matches the hypothesis. If it doesn't, then you have more learning to do. Probably the best advice I got, but if you get more specific, I can certainly see what I could do to help you. I could probably ask, is there a performance hit when using dot strings in Python? it might just say straight up no. Strings are stored as part of the function. Okay, so that is something I also considered, because Python does have this idea of reflection, this ability to like access the compilation details of the code. And so in actuality, that docstring does get stored somewhere in a magic function. It's slower initially in creating the function, so this really only applies for when you start up the program. The program might take, you know, milliseconds longer. Not a huge deal. You don't want to access docs a lot in a tight loop. It's interesting. I don't see why you would want to do that. Oh wow, just remove the doc string during. Are comments also stored in doc, or are they only for doc strings? That's a good question. Let's learn. This is the scientific theory in progress. My guess is that it won't store it. And we could probably look at do something, because it has a comment right before it. And maybe we can look at init. And so we can do print instance dot init dot doc. We'll do that, and then we'll do something dot doc. So I think this one will print the string, because there is a triple quote there. This one, I'm not well versed in Python, but I imagine that it says none. I imagine. Cool. So they both did none. What's another one that I did? We still got more learning to do, it seems. Verifies the shape of a tuple. What if we did this? What was it called? Tuple shape. Okay, so they're all giving me none. So I don't know why that is. Maybe there's something we need to know about doc strings. I am adding comments for functions, but they are adding the doc property properly. You formatted it. You're telling me that I'm the problem. Apparently, oh, this one looks fine. Oh, you gotta put it in the function. That's super strange. That actually makes it worse in my opinion. But maybe a process, when you run the code, it compiles it. Yeah, it needs to go inside the function. You're right. Like, to me, this actually makes it feel worse, because it makes me feel like every time you run this function, it's gonna have this, but I imagine at some point it's getting compiled to some kind of intermediate code, and this part only happens once, and this just gets stored. So it almost feels like it should be worse, but it's not. And to your point, you're saying that the function needs to be, or the comment needs to be in the function. So I'll do that here too. I'll put this as the first line of the function. I still don't think this, I still think this shows us none. And the only reason I believe that is because I imagine it's very common to have a comment here, but you might not want that to be marked as a doc string. I didn't know what. Okay, so we're getting. Why are we getting true? True, none, none. And the incorrect deduction contained because the string is the first statement inside the function. Ensure the doc string inside the function. Make sure the triple quotes inside the body are not outside or wrong indentation level. It's none, none, then a string. Oh yeah, you're right. True. Why is it tabbed? I don't like that. That's kind of frustrating. Okay, so the init not working, or you just can't comment in it, but that seems kind of silly. Can you doc string init? Oh wait, who's... I wonder who's in it is actually pulling the docs from? Because this one overrides, so let's do this. Okay, so we created an instance of the parent, that's why. I think you write about comments not being stored. Okay. But look at this, like the tabbing matters here. I'm not the biggest fan of that. And I know that that's like part of the string. Like to me, I would want it to remove these leading spaces. But yeah, of course we made an instance of the class, not the child. And so we're getting the doc string of the parent. So to do something, actually, I did put it on the right class. No, I did not put it on the right class. I'll do A, B, just. All right, we do get none. And that's for the middle one, which is do something. Okay, good question. I think that, well now at least we know that we're doing the doc strings correctly, and I think that's pretty important. I think I'm gonna put this gets stored as function dot doc. That's not the right word. Alright, closures, who cares? Alright, cool. Learned something new there. Thanks for that. Alright, so for files, we do like with F open. F dot. What is it? Show me a simple file read for Python. Okay, I had it backwards. We just do read me d and then just print content. Dot slash. I actually don't know if Python runs from. Okay, cool, it does. Okay, that's simple read. There's read lines. File dot read. Oh my goodness. Okay, there's read line, read lines. I'll just comment these because I think that they actually give you errors potentially. Okay, and then file rating. Okay, so we could do file.write content. And then we would have to do like read write. Okay. I will say that A append is also an option. Oh, that's cool. There's also write lines, which is an array. It's not really writing lines though, because you have to add the /n, but it's fine. And then here we say, with ensures the file is properly closed after reading /writing. Okay, that's files. I feel like error handling is more interesting right now. I think once I get through to Python, I'm gonna take a quick break and then I'm gonna do SQL after that. So, just so y'all know the plan. And then if I have time, doing some Flask and SQL alchemy. My interview's at 1:30. So, not much time to prepare, but we'll do our best. I might not even need this Python knowledge. I might be able to get away with using TypeScript. So, I might be doing myself a disservice right now, but maybe we just stop at error handling, and then we do SQL, or maybe I take the break and then we do SQL. There's an error saying you can't do RW. Oh, really? Oh, you can only have one. That's fine. Thank you. Error handling. Well, I guess that's what we needed. What is it? It's like, try... accept? Error handling. Example. Oh, so you can specify the type of error. Okay. And then if you just want general, is there error? Oh. Everything else is an error. And then there's finally. Except this block catches specific exceptions. This is the general exception cache, will capture any error not caught by previous except blocks. Finally, this block code always runs whether an exception occurred. This is generic exception handler. Specific error. Code with errors goes here. Except I'm not gonna stop streaming completely. I will probably stream. I'll stream less. I'll probably just stream three days a week, 3 to 4 days a week. And it'll probably be different times. I'm thinking after I get a job, I'd probably be streaming. If it's 3 days a week, it's gonna be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. If it's 4 days a week, it'd be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And then the timing for Saturday would probably be 12 to 4. And the timing for the weekdays would probably be like 5 to 7, maybe. It kind of depends. I'd have to see how my schedule looks, what the expectations are, and make sure I'm hitting expectations early. But at the very least, I'll be doing Saturday 12 to 4, at the very least. Maybe initially it'll just be 1 day a week. But I'll still make YouTube videos. I'll still be active in the Discord. So I'll make something. I'll still try to make some kind of content. Cause yeah, I don't want to stop streaming. I really enjoy teaching, and I really enjoy learning. So I really enjoy chatting with like people in the industry too. So it's been good connecting with you. So I will figure out how to fit it into my life for sure. Especially because the job will be remote, most likely. That'll help a lot with being able to stream more than if the job was in person, which I'm trying to avoid. Okay, so requests aren't really syntax, and testing and debugging aren't really syntax. So we'll just call this advanced for now. We'll just commit this. Add Python and Python, add core Python and blank SQL. Yeah, I noticed that the people are starting to enjoy the shorts that I've been making, or that I made a while ago actually. So I'll probably make some more shorts. I do want to make shorts about like the questions you've been asking for sure. But also do some longs where I make stuff. But yeah, I'll definitely keep you all updated. Let everyone know. I'm not just gonna like ghost you. I think like this one remote job that I'm interviewing for, they have in-person for the first 2 weeks for training, and so I might not be able to do anything for those 2 weeks because the in-person is actually in California, and so I just won't have my equipment to do anything. So I might have to take like 2 weeks off because of that. But maybe what I will do is, you know, if I got an offer, take a week and just like make some videos and schedule those for the 2 weeks I'm out, just so that there's still some content and some information being shared. What would I look for a job besides being remote? I think like top of the list, if I'm like, I think it's really important to like consider your skill sets, and to consider your preferences. And so for me, I do prefer jobs in the TypeScript world. But maybe I'll fall in love with Python. Python is alright. I mean, it's quirky. It's not the fastest language. It's kind of more of a true lab scientist language than like a web development language in my opinion. But I mean, it's used for web development. So, but yeah, I'm prioritizing the tech stack for sure. I'm prioritizing the industry. Like there's certain industries I want to avoid, so I avoid anything to do with gambling. I avoid anything to do with crypto, which is basically gambling. Everyone does AI, so you can't avoid AI. So AI, I used to be anti-AI, but you know, I'm kind of on the fence. Definitely like a good team structure. You get a good sense of a good team structure. People that are responsive. During the interview, you definitely want to check for like ego. You want to check for just kind of how they talk to you, how they like view your role. You don't want someone who thinks that what you're doing is easy. You don't want to work with someone like that. You don't want to work with someone who you feel like you're working, like at least for me, like I like the idea of working with someone, not for someone. So for example, like big tech, I probably feel like I'm working for them, which is why I usually like smaller companies. As long as I feel like there's like really good collaboration, everyone's kind of doing an equal share. Everyone's sharing ideas for how things can improve. And so just asking those questions like, what happens when this kind of situation comes up? What happens if there's a bug? How do we reduce bugs? How do we reduce tech debt? How do we just seeing what kind of programs they have? Do you have lunch and learns? Do you have tech debt handling? I don't know. These are just some of the things I care about when picking a job. Full-time work is really nice. Health insurance is really nice. 401k is really nice. High pay is really nice. It's not the priority though. I do have my minimum, but you know, I'm not trying to earn like $300,000 a month or $300,000 a year. I just want to go somewhere where I feel like I'm contributing and they acknowledge that my contributions are valuable. I think that's a pretty good minimum. But yeah, other than that, I think the one company I'm interviewing for today, they basically try to help people to avoid collections with their medical bills. And the way they do that is just creating a better system for alerting people about bills that are due and how to pay them, and because crazy enough, like medical billing, sometimes you don't even know if you have a medical bill, and suddenly you get a letter from collections. You don't even get the medical bill, you just get the bill from collections, and you're already in trouble. It could potentially hurt your credit, it could hurt your ability to take loans, and it's just no good. You could start having to pay penalties and whatnot, so it's just, yeah, it's not a happy situation. So the idea of the company at a high level is to help make the process easier, faster, smoother. Don't hospitals usually have portals that show you balance and any dues? So I would say that's probably more on the rare side, because like, I don't know, my fiance has gone to have standard medical visits, and she never got a bill. They told her that insurance covered it all, and so she didn't even look to see if there's a bill. She paid the deductible. It wasn't until she got a letter from collections that she knew that actually, as a matter of fact, insurance didn't cover it all. They did some extra procedure that they didn't tell her about that the insurance didn't cover. And now she was under the impression that she paid for everything. Yeah. And so like, even the hospital doesn't know. They tell you everything's covered, but the hospital doesn't know that it's actually fully covered until after you left. And then they find out, oh, actually there was this one other charge up. And if they don't have your information, if they don't have like your right address, if they don't have your right phone number, because they collected it wrong, or their system has issues, which a lot of them do, they just send it to collections and they find you. Yeah, it is crazy, but that's the world we live in right now. What I'm thinking of doing, I want to share all the prompts that I did here. I'll just put it right into the README. I'm not too sure how long this. I'm not too sure how long this lasts, but sure. I think it's an interesting resource. Even for me, for future me, when I'm just like, wait, what did I struggle with? What were my questions? Oh yeah. Why are your line numbers inverted? I am using VS Code. I'm using a VS Code plugin. And so what it actually shows is, it only shows the line number you're on. And then it shows how many lines above and how many lines below. And the reason for that is because VS Code has shortcuts for these kind of things. And let's say I wanted to go to the control flow line, but I didn't want to use my mouse. I want to keep my hands on the keyboard. I could just type the numbers. Well, I gotta go into the movement mode. I do 1, 2 down, and it brings me right to that line because I know that 12 down was that. It's just one of the many views of VS. Am I saying VS Code? Vim, V-I-M. I imagine you can control it, but Vim is a pretty nice editor, editing shortcut kind of. All right. Good question though. Alright, so what I'm thinking, I'm gonna take a short break, and then I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna do some SQL, some raw SQL. And then I'm gonna do some Flask, and then some SQL Alchemy. But yeah, I'll see you in maybe 30, 45 minutes. Thanks for joining. I'll see you if anyone else is here. Bye for now. Be back in about 45 minutes. Cool. I'll see you then.